Hi everybody, it's Honest John again. Now, candy is dandy, but liquor is quicker. That's a quote from a pretty good author by the name of Ogden Nash. You might have heard of him. And he coined the phrase some time ago, I think like in the 1940s. It was meant as clever wordplay, but it also reflects common male attitudes of the time that I grew up in. We used to think that women needed to be seduced. Now think about that word, seduce. It basically means that men felt like they had to somehow trick a woman into having sex with us by, turning on the charm, putting up a false front, deceptive ploys, and often generous amounts of sex or of generous amounts of alcohol or drugs. And this made women objects to be conquered rather than people. This was a vast underestimation of women. They are complicated. They are sexual beings in their own right with desires and needs of their own. In short, women can be just as horny as any guy can. Now, if Ogden Nash had coined that same phrase, say in the past 5 years, he probably would have been derided as a sexist pig. But there are still guys who think that plying women with liquor or drugs is a good shortcut to sex. Now, there's nothing wrong with buying a woman a couple of drinks, or hey, if you smoke weed or do other drugs, that's fine. But what you have to keep in mind is what is the point at which a woman is no longer capable of giving informed consent. I mean, let's face it. If your goal is to get a woman seriously drunk and then take advantage of that state in order to have sex, you might not know it, but you're basically thinking like a rapist. But even social drinking can lead to various levels of intoxication. So the question is, when does a person reach a point when they are incapable of giving informed consent to have sex? Now, some people would say that it's if they reach if they're too drunk to drive. You're too drunk to consent. Well, that's not a terrible guideline, but since we don't carry breathalyzers around with us, if you're just talking about a person's alcohol level in their blood, there's no way of knowing that unless you do bring a breathalyzer with you. And also, you know, like, it really doesn't matter how much a person has drunk. That's not a good gauge, because there's a thing called tolerance, and tolerance for alcohol or drugs varies from person to person. For example, a person who drinks a lot can be well above the legal limit to drive but not be seriously impaired. As a matter of fact, that's a real shame. I know that there have been people convicted of drunk driving because they had a high alcohol blood level who were really not seriously impaired. On the other hand, people who don't drink very much, or some people who just have a low tolerance, can become completely plotzed after consuming very, very little alcohol, even as little as one beer. So the only real standard is the eye test. Does the person look drunk? Are their eyes bleary or watery? Is the speech slurred? Is their gait unsteady? All are warning signs that you're treading on dangerous ground. Now, there is a case in England, the Bree case, where a judge ruled that a woman who was drunk was able to give informed consent. But he made his ruling very narrow. It's not definitive. And more often than not, the courts have convicted people who have had sex with people who were very, very drunk, with women who were very, very drunk, and then accused that person of rape. And there are false accusations that happen. I'm not going to deny that. They're very rare. Some men would like you to believe that they happen all the time. No, most women don't want to get involved in the court system, even when they are actually raped. But they do happen very rarely, and when they do, they are seriously damaging to the man's reputation, even if he's proven innocent. Sometimes that damage can be beyond repair. So going to the bar with the idea of picking up a stranger to have sex with is a dangerous proposition to begin with. You can reduce or even eliminate that risk by not having sex the first time you meet somebody, by taking them on several dates, developing a relationship of some kind with them, getting to know the person. Because if you're having sex with somebody that you don't know anything about, the repercussions of that can be devastating. You might be out with a beautiful woman who is a total psycho bitch and who will make your life miserable. So, regardless of the amount of alcohol involved, it's a good idea to get to know a person before having sex with them and letting her get to know you. Having sex with somebody you know nothing about, that's actually a little bit crazy. After all, guys, isn't what we really want for the woman to be completely willing and who unambiguously wants to have sex with us because she admires and likes the person that we are, rather than someone who we don't know and doesn't know us and who later on will regret ever meeting us and possibly make us regret ever meeting her. Thanks for listening.